Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. Thanks for joining me in this video today. We're going to discuss the potential for post-election chaos here in the United States, and we're going to look back upon recent history for examples of other countries where there was significant disruption and breakdown in rule of law after an election, the lessons we can learn from them, and also the lessons that we learned from the Black Lives Matter riots from 2020. So we're going to look at the supplies that we need to pat ourselves with, and also the general wherewithal that we're going to need coming into potentially a very chaotic time for our nation going forward. So let's get started. So folks, we know about the beans, bullets, and band-aids here on this channel. We've spoken about this, but what I really want to do with this video is to look at recent history and some case studies regarding different elections and chaos that ensued after them in different countries. I also want to reflect back upon the BLM riots from 2020 and some of the lessons that we learned specifically here in the United States. The lessons that we learn not only in which supplies to have stored up, but also the general wherewithal we need and the strategizing that we need to employ leading into this particular swath of time. So when we think about a few countries here, Haiti, Honduras, and Venezuela, each of them have in the past 15 years seen pretty significant chaos after elections. And there is a pattern and there's a theme there, particularly when the left doesn't get their way and they get upset, and also the way that cities play into this calculus. So when you look at, for instance, in Venezuela, when you have the socialist government that came in, of course we know that whenever socialist policies such as price controls and effectively command and control economy running get in, that you do see supply disruptions as a consequence of this. So in Venezuela, you saw after the 2013 elections and also the 2018 elections that there was major fuel shortage, which is kind of bizarre for a country that is so wealthy effectively in crude oil, but there you have it. Fuel shortage and also the inability of gas stations to be resupplied for fuel. This is a critical need for us going into the election, making sure that your gas tanks are topped off, but also if, for instance, you have a generator, that you have fuel for that generator ready to go and that's stored appropriately and safely as well. Combustibles need to not be stored near your dwelling space. After the riots in Venezuela in 2013 and 2018, you saw that electricity was knocked off for a lot of different areas, including areas that had critical needs, such as hospitals. And so many hospitals were not able to operate the way that they were supposed to in Venezuela. In the Black Lives Matter riots in Minneapolis, of course, there were lots of different supply line disruptions, including fuel disruptions, because tankers could not deliver their gas to different gas stations because people were rioting around the area and looting. One of the key features, not only in Honduras, but also in Haiti, is that the choke points of highways and major roads and intersections, they were blocked off by rioters, or in the case of Haiti, with gangs. And these gangs would commandeer and basically steal stuff, commit acts of violence against people. But certainly in the case of Honduras, you had protesters that blocked off large swaths of major highways. We saw this, of course, in Oakland, California, where BLM rioters and other places, of course, around the country were blocking the interstate, blocking major thoroughfares, and taking over downtown. And this is a key point. And I drive this home in my classes to folks, too, in my in-person classes particularly, that in the downtown areas of most major cities, this is where the majority of your trauma hospitals are located and also your general pediatric hospitals. So there's a point here to consider that you need to be able to take care of your family's needs at home. You need to make sure that whatever medical supplies that you have reoccurring, such as drugs that you're dependent upon, insulin, heart medications, if you have children who have special needs, then making sure to pay attention to their supply needs, whatever you use most of, and have that supply padded for at least a 3 to 4 week supply if you can. And the reason for this, of course, the last place that you want to have to try and venture to in the midst of rioting and breakdown rule of law, or people venting their rage to unburden what has been, the last thing that you want to do is to try and traverse through those people, because I'm telling you folks, they have no empathy. They are broken. There is this part in their brain that says, I'm a human and I treat human beings nicely. It don't work. They didn't play nice with other children on the playground, and they've lived in an area of consequencelessness. So they don't know what happens when you push people too far. And rather than select into a fight, I'd rather self-select out of a fight and not have to go into that area of control for them. So making sure that you have your health supplies stored up at home and that you have a basic level of being able to take care of people and to be able to problem solve and to render aid to folks at home. And I'm talking about things not just from a first aid standpoint, but from respiratory diseases, digestive diseases, wound care, all the things we talk about in my courses. You need to be able to cover this. Of course, on the website, thepatriotnurse.com, we have supplies, of course. I've also recently debuted a new kit, a medical kit, which actually one of the things I really like about that kit is that it is a waterproof rated kit. Not a lot of waterproof rated kits out there for medical supply stuff. You may see the fancy bag with the reflectors, but here's the thing. If water gets in your bandages, they are useless. So you can just wave bye-bye to a couple $100 worth of whatever it is that you spent money on if it's not in a waterproof case. Another thing to consider, folks, is the necessity of water and of a filtration system for your water. I do not put it past these people to sabotage not only potable water stations, but wastewater treatments. And so if you don't have a reliable way to filter your water, a gravity filter, you really need to cover that base. And also, particularly if you have young children in the house who require, for instance, clean water, distilled water, etc., young babies with formula, you need to be able to make sure that you have that supply of clean water ready to go at a moment's notice. So that way you don't have to venture out in case you've got water contamination or water supply issues. This actually was the case. Detroit, actually, in the midst of the Black Lives Matter riots / protests, mostly peaceful riots, Detroit experienced some significant disruptions in public services, including water, in the aftermath. Another thing that you need to make sure of is your light needs. So whether it is a crank lantern with a solar backup or battery-powered flashlights and torches, you need to be able to illuminate your theater of operations. So kitchens, of course, very important places to make sure that they're well lit, because what happens if you're working with sharp knives in a dark area, friends? Injuries, not fun. And what happens when you have major slicing injuries from kitchens? You have to go to the hospital, and do you really want to go downtown when all the rioters are beating their chest about all the reparations that they're demanded and they're not getting, and about how their rights are being violated because Cheeto Man is in power? You can just see it, friends. So try and deselect out of the need to go into places where the left will be rioting. And part of the way that we do that is to anticipate any injuries that would necessitate and are going to care facilities that could potentially be in their control. So having the ability to illuminate your operating area with lanterns, with battery powered or solar powered, you need the ability to do that. And I'll actually put a link in the description box below to my favorite lantern, the one that I use. It has a solar power charger, it has a crank backup, and it also has a USB charger so you can trickle charge your phone as well. Speaking of phones, comms is a huge thing, communications. And again, I do not put it past the left to sabotage things if they don't get their way. I don't put it past them to try as best as possible to destroy different types of communication infrastructure in the lead up. So friends, self-defense is also a critical part of this equation. Whenever roads become impassable, particularly because rioters and protesters are blocking them, they're also blocking the ability of emergency services and emergency transport to get into these areas. Police will not be able to respond quickly. Fire will not be able to respond. EMS and ambulance services will definitely not be able to respond. It's something from a practical standpoint here, friends. The police don't have a requirement to show up to a scene of violence and interdict it. They only are bound from a duty standpoint to show up after the fact and investigate a crime. So really, the burden of your own self-defense and of your family's security, it's on you, friends. It is on you. So make sure that you have the ability to defend yourself, that you have appropriate ammunition stored. But more than just sitting on a stockpile, friends, you really need to take a portion of that allotment and go and seek proper training. Make sure to become not just familiar with your weapon, but capable with your weapon, and beyond capable to competent, and from competent to ultimately combat effective. Being able to secure your area without having to call and hope that 911 can get there in time, particularly if they're otherwise occupied with the rioting downtown areas. Really need to be able to take care of your family's needs at home. And of course, the self-defense standpoint there, the beans, bullets, and band-aids as we've talked about, that's key. So to recap, friends, in our focus towards being prepared for the elections here in 2024, it behooves us to look at the lessons from recent history, not just in places like Venezuela and Honduras and Haiti, but also to the mostly peaceful riots here in the United States and cities in 2020. And when we look at these lessons, we can see not just strategy that we should embrace in self-selecting out of conflict, but also supplies that we would need in order to pad our protection effectively against having to go out and source them in the midst of chaos. So friends, I hope this video was helpful for you today. If it was helpful for you, please share this with one person who you know would benefit from being prepared. And also, friends, if you have not gone over to the website, thepatriotnurse.com, check it out. We have a lot of opportunities there, not just for supplies, but also for education. If you're wanting to get better educated and being able to take care of your family's healthcare and medical needs at home, consider taking a class online or in person. And I got a couple of options there for you, 4-hour and 7-hour courses there. All the info there at the website, thepatriotnurse.com. Friends, it's going to be a very interesting time leading up into it, and when it comes right down to it, history favors the prepared. And I want to be the type of person that people look up to and look for guidance in times of disasters. I don't want to be the one responding on a back foot and having to scramble. So I know that you probably are in that same scenario. You want to be a blessing to people, and you want to be a leader in times of uncertainty. And leaders really are the ones who not only give inspiration, but they also give calm in the middle of the storm. And ultimately, my calm comes from my faith, and I know ultimately who I serve. And I serve the Lord God Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth. And I know that he's placed us here, you and me, everyone watching this video, he's placed us here for such a time as this, to be a blessing and really to shine a light in times of darkness. And that's what our role is. That's why we prep. That's why I prep, and that's probably why you prep too, to be a blessing to people in times of darkness, not to sit on our pile and watch the world burn, but really to be a blessing and to be a safe harbor in times of an uncertain storm. Have a very, very blessed week, guys. May the Lord bless and keep you all. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off. I'll see y'all later.